What is going on, fellow reformers? It's the Reformation Keegan, and I'm here today with another analysis of a really great comic story that I feel like has kind of gone under the radar a lot because of the Court of Owls and because it precedes the Court of Owls, and that is Batman: Death of the Family. So this is the next big arc in the New 52, which I'm currently reading from start to finish right now. And I have to say that I enjoyed this arc itself just as much as the Court of Owls. Like I said before, I'm a massive fan of Scott Snyder's writing, and I think he is a tremendous storyteller. Which is very hard to do with writing nowadays, especially for comics, because you would assume that everything has been written by this point, when truth be told, almost nothing has been written, and there's still so much more that we could explore with all of these DC characters and also with Batman himself. There's always so much more you can do with the character, and that's a positive because the Batman character slash Bruce Wayne is so dynamic that you can always add new traits to his rogues gallery, which is the best in comics history, and create new narratives that don't betray the actual canon of the entire character and the arcs, but also contribute to them in a positive manner. And that's what Scott Snyder, I believe, has done with these. And as many of you know, I have read most of the Batman stories pre New 52, meaning that I had read almost everything beforehand and basically just getting started on the more modern, more newer stories of the Cape Crusader. So we're going to start with Batman: Death of the Family, and I want to get a couple things out of the way. One, there is a lot of prose and there is a lot of dialogue in this New 52 arc, but especially in Death of the Family, which I am not complaining about. A lot of people do not like too much prose in their comics, and I think one of it is because one, it can be hard to follow for the average reader, and two, it can become problematic in the sense that the writer will rely on dialogue too much to try to get a story across, as opposed to letting the artist, which would be Greg Capullo here, do their magic. So if you look, for example, at Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's Superman for All Seasons, there is dialogue, but not as much, and Tim Sale gets to shine and tell stories through his art, because sometimes too much dialogue will overcompensate what the story is trying to tell, and the art will get misconstrued in the process. But that does not happen here. Scott Snyder does use a ton of dialogue, but I think it's all very purposeful and it all means something. A lot of times you can write a lot and say nothing, which is called empty writing. And Scott does not do that here. Everything makes sense. Everything leads to something, and there is a method to the madness, which is getting to my next point, because the Joker in this particular arc is absolutely menacing, and it's not a method to the madness. It's how much madness is used in the method. So doing a little wordplay there with a paradox, and a lot of comics are paradoxical, and the Joker is the epitome of a paradox in comics, because as readers, we're not supposed to always know what the Joker's thinking, and we're not supposed to know what's coming next with the Joker because he's unpredictable, which is probably his strongest character trait, other than being absolutely mentally unstable. And Scott Snyder does this perfectly, and he does it right from the get go. So the Joker essentially cuts his own face off. So he's faceless, and he disappears for an entire year. And when somebody disappears that is very disliked or is just a full on evil presence in the world, we oftentimes never forget what their actions or their contributions in a negative manner are to the world. So we're always looking over our shoulder to see, okay, when are they coming back? But the Joker disappears for an entire year, and 12 months is a really long time. And it's just human nature that after a certain amount of time, you are going to stop being as paranoid unless you have a debilitating mental health crisis. So in Batman's case, it's not like he forgets about the Joker, but he kind of puts a little bit of it in his back shelf, especially when dealing with the Court of Owls earlier. But when the Joker returns, it's a massive problem for him. And the Joker's a massive problem for Batman because he challenges Batman's own self-agency and challenges Batman's mental health. So if we start from the get-go, it's been an entire year. But the thing is, and always bring your notes, everybody, you have Batman who activates voice recognition for this Joker cosplayer per se, named John Claridge, and this is the first man that the Joker actually killed in Gotham. So Scott Snyder also uses historical realism here to adduce the history of Batman and the Joker, which I like, because a lot of times in comics, I think writers, they don't do this on purpose, but they forget the historical elements of the characters, not just in how they act, but what the actual historical lineage is within the canon of the story. And that can insult the intelligence of your audience a lot, because your audience remembers more than you think. And if you are under the assumption that your audience doesn't remember everything beforehand, you're going to be horribly mistaken, because you'll probably go to a Comic Con and they are going to remind you of everything that they know, or they're going to go on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or whatever other social media platform they use and complain about it and get mad at you because you think that you know more than they do. That's just a fact, and it happens a lot in literature because we, as literary scholars, we remember more than meets the eye, and we remember little intricacies of the stories that you tell. So using historical realism adds to this trait, and you have John Claridge, who is the first man that Joker killed in Gotham, establishing it right from the get-go. And that also gives a perspective of ethos to the author as well, that Scott Snyder would go back and use this to show not just his own personal knowledge of the characters, but to also show how he's not going to insult the intelligence of the reader with this. So we also figure out too that this is also the first place where we see the Joker toxin used, and that's going to be a very prevalent part of the story. And I really liked how Harley Quinn was used, in the sense that it villainizes the Joker that much more to be this courser, for lack of a better term. So he uses Harley Quinn as an object, and the theme of an object within literature often happens from a gender point of view, and that's what we see here through the usage of Harley Quinn. And he tells Harley, he goes, "Take all your clothes off," and that is immediately uncomfortable. Immediately uncomfortable, because we don't know where this is going yet. Because if you know the Joker's past history, and you have specifically read The Killing Joke, you'll understand what I'm talking about here, where things get very, very coercive, and things get very, 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 very deep, for lack of a better term. And I don't want to go too much into it here, because I don't know what my audience is right now, and I don't know who's watching, but I will say that if you have read The Killing Joke, things get taken to the extreme. And this is almost what you think is going to happen here, but then the Joker slaps on a mask and tells her, "You have to be looking like me, you have to have the same presence as me, and you have to be the same height as me." And he gives her essentially the Red Hood mask for her to go under the Red Hood as a decoy. And the Joker's still hiding now. Batman hasn't seen him yet. But one thing that I find really interesting is the Joker uses strategy. And that's, again, it comes back to the madness to the method and not method to the madness, that paradox. But he uses a strategy that only he can understand. And I think for us, with the audience, we're not supposed to understand, and that's the beauty of it. I would love to do maybe one day a philosophical and ideological reading on the Joker, just in general, because there's so much simultaneity and so much ambiguity with the character that I think it would be really fun to dissect down the road. So let me know if you would be interested in that, because things can get very philosophical when pertaining to the Joker, with his identity and his history and the way he thinks, and if he even does think. But I believe the Joker possesses a strategy that only he can understand, and we as readers are not supposed to understand, because we are supposed to theorize. And I think the Joker does things to make us question. And that is all that I believe he is meant to do. But there's so much more to that, and I would love to do, again, a full-on analysis of the character down the road. If you're interested, let me know. So one thing I want to point out too is he uses strategy to pit Bruce basically against Damian Wayne, against Jason, against Nightwing, who's Dick Grayson, and also Barbara. So he does this by not having an outward strategy. He has an inward strategy, an intangible strategy, but it's not a strategy. It's not a strategy that anybody else can see. And this pits Bruce against all of them, and for all of them to lose their trust in him. And you can see this when he basically possesses them with the Joker toxin, where even Alfred and Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, they all, or not, Damian Wayne, all of them, they start infighting within each other, but they don't trust Bruce anymore. And this drives Bruce insane, because kind of like Hush and the Court of Owls, the Joker can get into the mind of Batman like anyone. So he has this really weird rhetorical impact on Batman, where you can see in Batman's internal monologues how he doubts himself in a lot of ways. And Scott Snyder does this perfectly to make Batman still a human-based hero and give him the pathos, the emotional effect that the readers aspire to have when trying to sympathize with Bruce Wayne slash Batman. So in book 2 specifically, there's one internal monologue that really caught my eye, and I'm not going to read it all, but this is what the panels look like if anybody has it. But it basically says something along the lines of don't think about it, Bruce. Don't think about how quiet it is on the road tonight. Quiet because you're supposed to be talking to Alfred right now. It's when you always call him on the way to battle. If only you hadn't let the Joker get him, you'd be calling to tell him the facts of the case. To reassure him that you'd be fine. But not really, no. That's what you tell yourself the reason was. But deep down, you'd know you'd be calling to hear his voice, to be stop it. Focus on the case. He's leaving you clues in his poisons. The blood thinner Joker used on Gordon, the company that makes it also provides the chemicals to treat the reservoir. And the reservoir was the site of your first fight with the Joker, your first real battle with him. It is where you first saw him, really saw him, for who he was, where you understood what you were facing in him. And it is where he saw you back. So the reservoir slash the caves, they really give a sense another method of historical realism that Scott Snyder uses here, because this is the first place where Batman does encounter the Joker, and he's trying to figure out how the Joker would get into the caves, because the Joker does claim that he knows Bruce's identity here, which I believe to be a full-on joke, because it's really hard to get into those caves, and even Bruce iterates to himself that he would really not know all the ins and outs of the caves at the time that this happened, because this is when Bruce would be more younger and more inexperienced, based on the canon that we're going for. And this internal monologue shows self-doubt where Bruce expresses a lot of regret over not being able to save Alfred. And sometimes I think a lot of people have this misinterpretation that Batman is an emotionless character, but really what it is it's a decoy, and it's a paradox again, and it's this simultaneity where he shows emotion by not showing any emotion. And that is his emotion, because you can even see it when Nightwing or Tim Drake will ask him questions, and he's very stern, but he's doing it for their own well-being. And that is where the simultaneity lies in through emotion by not showing it. It's almost like a mask, like the Joker. So there's so much going on in these monologues, because Bruce does doubt himself, and I believe that deep down Bruce is an insecure individual, and that's not even including the tragedy of the Wayne family. That's just him being himself. I believe no matter what fortune brings him, there is this level of insecurity due to the fact that there is one person that has been able to take him in and treat him the way he should be treated, and take care of every other asset that he's needed, and that is Alfred. So if you take Alfred, that is where the emotional spectrum becomes heightened and more misconstrued. So the abducting of Alfred is a strategy used by the Joker to not just play with Batman's mind, but to get him to react in ways that he would not usually. For instance, the Joker always wants Batman to kill him, but I believe that there is a part of Bruce that actually loves the fight with the Joker. And he tells the Joker, if I kill you, you'd win. But I don't believe even the Joker cares about winning, because I think the Joker cares about the chase just as much as Bruce does, which says a lot. I think they both live for each other. They need each other. They're like that married couple that is very violent, but also that married couple where they live to hate each other. They're not even divorced, but they hate each other. So that's what I believe that the relationship is, and I believe that Scott Snyder communicates this in the best possible way. So it's not that the Joker would win per se, even if that's what Bruce thinks, but there's a simultaneity that Bruce actually deep down loves the chase, because he's a crime solver, right? And a crime fighter, and you always need a foil when you're a crime fighter, because what happens if there's no more crime left? Obviously, Bruce would want to limit the crime in the Gotham population, but for his own agency, what does that do to him if it's all solved? You're always looking for that next case. It's almost like a thrill, right? If we can call Bruce Wayne a junkie for crime, we probably would, because this is what he has predicated his life off of since he was about 8 years old. So I believe that, again, there's a lot of duality and simultaneity in Scott Snyder's writing that is showing this and supporting my stance on it. But one of the things that I really liked at the end, and it got a little bit scientific, was the Joker toxin. I thought this was really well done. And I thought it was well done because, like I said, there's not a method to the Joker's madness. It's all madness. And it's but the Joker is also smarter than we think. He is pure chaos, but I also believe he's controlled chaos. As colloquial as that sounds, and as counterintuitive as that sounds, I believe that the Joker is controlled chaos. I believe that the Joker is in control of what he's doing. And I believe that because he would not go to the lengths that he has gone to in this story to make Bruce feel the way he does. Like when he abducts everybody and he has their cut off faces on ice and all of them wrapped in bandages, almost looking like Hush, just to play with Bruce's mind. And then we find out it's a joke. It wasn't real. It was all a ruse, because then Damian Wayne, he doesn't have his face ripped off. He goes and he hugs his father. That's just a cruel joke. And that is just to play with Batman's mind, because they're not. I think the Joker would kill Batman if he had the chance, but I think he would rather have the joke first. And they live to go after each other. It's a personal vendetta against one another, and it's a personal motivation to support each other in this weird paradoxical way. But the Joker toxin supports this, because when the Joker uses it and has all the Batman family basically go against each other, and they all have the Joker smile when they're infighting, this hurts Bruce, like I said earlier in this video, where he doesn't feel necessarily trusted. And then when Bruce tries to find who the Joker's identity is, and the Joker tells him to shut up, and then he falls in and the mask falls with him, we find that there is basically a code on the periodic table, and it's HA, like ha 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 ha, and that's the laugh. And that's how it ends. And I thought this ending was absolutely brilliant, because it's not telling you everything, but it's also telling you a lot. And it's the fact that the Joker is unidentifiable, because I believe that anybody else can be a Joker. And it all it takes, like Alan Moore said, is one bad day. And the Joker is not, to me, an identity. I think the Joker is more of a circumstantial lifestyle. Because if enough tragedy ensues on you, it only takes that one bad day to go completely insane. And it only takes one bad day to become a Joker, where you have lost all hope and you become happy in the madness that you are living in, and you become content in the angst that you live in, and you become very, very motivated in the uncertainty that you live in. So I believe that's why the periodic table was an extremely prevalent part of this conclusion, because a laugh can indicate joy or it can indicate insanity. And then for the Joker, I think it's both. So let me know what you guys think, because insecurity is really rationality in this instance, which is another paradox. And if you want me to explore more, let me know. But this was my take on Batman Death of the Family. I absolutely loved reading this. I got it done really quickly for as busy as I am. And I enjoyed it. And now I'm going to Zero Year. That's going to be the next story I read. But let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If Scott Snyder ever sees this, it'd be great. I'd love to converse with him about some of his writing down the road. I know he is active on X, so it would be really awesome to talk to him about that. But let me know what you think, because I like digging deep in these rabbit holes for comics. I don't just want to give you a review and a recounting of events. I want to take some of the events that I found very noteworthy and examine them that much farther, based on the canon of the character, the characterization of the character, and future implications, along with a little bit of philosophy and a little bit of ideological prowess that we see in English literature. So let me know what you think. Hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 500, and I am trying to get 3,000 watch hours so I can become a YouTube partner and give you better quality videos and give you more videos going forward. So if you can help in any way, I would gladly appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.